Buenas, buenas, buenas. I'm Vanessa, the host of Chicklet, a podcast where I share my unfiltered reviews of books that I think women, Latinas, and millennials would enjoy. Please subscribe and follow me on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at Chicklet Podcast, and enjoy today's episode on the book Snowed In by Catherine Walsh. So the book actually has 364 pages because the last 20 pages are for the next book. So just a heads up, it's not 384, which I was not prepared for. Like at the end of the book, I thought we still had 20 pages and we didn't, and it broke my heart. The genres are Christmas, romance, fiction, and contemporary. The writing style is first person, and each chapter alternates from Megan's point of view to Christian's, where we see them thinking similar things at the same time, but the other person doesn't have the courage to say it out loud yet. And you feel like you're in on the cheeseman while also rooting for them to finally share what they're thinking with each other. The author is Catherine Walsh. She was born and raised in Ireland. When not writing romantic comedies, she's trying and failing to not kill her houseplants. She's also written The Matchmaker, Holiday Romance, The Rebound, and One Night Only, a top 10 Amazon bestseller. Let's get into Lo Bueno. I loved this book. The opening scene is 5 years ago when Megan was leaving her fiance Isaac at the altar. While she's sneaking out, she comes across Christian, the bad boy from her hometown, who promises to not let anyone know that he saw her making a swift exit. Megan and Christian had grown up together. Megan was always brown-nosing the teacher and had started dating Isaac at 15, while Christian was always too smart for his own good and constantly getting in trouble for things, like stealing people's cars or putting people's houses up for sale without their permission. Opposites attract kind of a little bit going on here. Once in present day, Christian's working a well-paying job and has a really nice apartment. He's gorgeous and doesn't have any issues picking up women, but he has a sad boy vibe to him, and we don't know what it is that he's missing. He's spending time with his brother's girlfriend's twin when he finds Megan at the bar, and of course, she spills wine all over him. There's a little bit of a damsel in distress going on because she had just given blood and almost fainted. So from the very beginning, you know that Christian is loyal for not telling on her, when she was leaving her own wedding. He loves his family because he's hanging out, like I said, with his brother's girlfriend's twin sister. So he's obviously very close with his family. And he's super caring because he stays with Megan and walks her home since she wasn't feeling well. It just makes my heart all warm and fuzzy that he's like that. And I know he's a fictional character, but I do want to tell you that guys like this do exist. While they're at Megan's place that night, they realize they're both dreading going home for the holidays single. Megan, for obvious reasons, leaving her fiance at the altar, it being a small town where people ostracize her for it, and it being 5 years since she last showed her face in town. And Christian doesn't want to go home single because he's a bad boy who feels like he put his parents through the ringer growing up and still feels bad about it. So they decide to take a page out of The Spanish Love Deception by Elena Armas and be each other's fake significant other at home for the holidays. It took some persuading. Christian had to take her out on a date to show her how good he was at faking it, at being her boyfriend, and also has 5 dozen roses sent to her job to really sell the idea of having a boyfriend. He brings her a cupcake when they're going on a long drive, calls her a passenger princess, and lets her pick the playlist for their several-hour drive home. He puts his hand on her knee, testing to see where she'll say stop, and she doesn't, and he obviously likes that. He says that his favorite sex position is whatever the girl he's with likes most. A king. We love him. Men, take notes. Ladies, send this episode to your man so that he can learn a thing or two. Be like Christian. If a guy doesn't know what to do, be like Christian. Honestly, I think all guys should read this book because if you are Christian, you will have a great sex life. And I feel like that's all guys really want in life, but I digress. Very early on, they're both unsure if they're even looking to date anyone at all. So pretending with each other throws them both off, not knowing how to manage it. We all know, obviously, how this is going to go, and we love it the whole time. There's sexual tension, especially because they're literally touching each other and almost speaking it into existence when they're lying to friends and family about how they're dating and how special the other one is. The first time it's obvious that there's sexual tension is when he's picking her up for their first date and doesn't tell her she looks pretty in an appropriate, boyfriend way. It's not convincing enough. So as Christian steps forward, Megan stiffens. The movement is slow and purposeful. All of a sudden, it's difficult for her to meet his eyes, and she feels her face heating up with every pulse of blood as his own gaze gentles into something approaching reverence. "You're right," he says, and her eyes widen as she tucks a strand of hair behind her ear. "I'm sorry. You look incredible, Megan. You look." His fingers skim over her cheek, sending a tingle down her spine, and she can't breathe. Her stomach is doing somersaults, and her mouth is dry. And then she interrupts him and tells him to back up because, of course, this is a fake thing and they actually don't want each other. But, like, obviously they do because of what he just did and how she reacted. So it's like, it's a lot of like lying to yourself and being like, no, this is just pretend. It's like, girl, you love him and he loves you. But anyways, I think the forbidden fruit trope is heavy at play here, like wanting something you're not supposed to have or something that they agreed they weren't going to have. So once they both agree to it, Christian instantly shows us how dedicated and loyal he is. He gives Megan a teeny tiny glimpse as to what it's like to have someone as like dedicated as he is. He says to her, "I promise that if we do this, whenever Isaac, her fiance that she left at the altar, is so much as in the same room as us, I'll look at you, touch you, and treat you like you are the most important person in the world to me. I promise that if I meet him, I will be thinking of you and only you. And I'll make sure he knows that. I'll make sure everyone does. Does that sound okay?" And exactly what I said before, back up. I want to bring home someone that my family will actually like, someone who will make my mom stop questioning me about my life, my siblings stop looking at me with pity, and my dad stop sighing in disappointment whenever he thinks I'm not paying attention. It's like, okay, so you love her. Like, you think your family's going to like her, so it's like, duh, 2 + 2 = 4. Like, it just makes sense. Their contract that they sign, obviously on a dirty, like, little napkin at their first date, it consists of the following rules: no tongue, nothing the other person is not like comfortable with, consent, love that. No putting one family above the other, no made up stories beyond what they agreed to because it would just be way too much to keep track of, and no telling anybody, no cheating, no hooking up with anyone for the 2 weeks that they're in town, and no backing out. So it just sets the stage. Like, we're in this together. You're not allowed to hook up with other people because, like, they think that you're dating. So if you're cheating, it just like sets a bad tone, obviously. You don't want to be played in real life, much less in your fake relationship. So it's super cute. I love the rules. One of their first obligations, Megan's mom's fundraiser. They're kissing all these rich people's asses. Megan is dodging all of the awkwardness. Christian is doing his duty of being sexy arm candy. He laughs at jokes, his crow's feet creasing in a way that already feels familiar to Megan, and expertly moves them away. His hold on her body, comfortable and sure, like they'd done this a dozen times before. And just for a moment, just for one fairy tale second, she wished they had. She wishes this was real, all of it. As if feeling the weight of her attention, his gaze snaps back to her, and her heart skips a beat, launching into something new. Something sweet and delicate that she's never felt before. The band keeps playing, but their steps slow as his grip on her hip tightens, and she wonders if he can feel her pulse racing beneath her skin. "You okay?" he murmurs, dropping his voice so no one else can hear. She nods, and it must be convincing because something playful sparks in his eye. "You want to do our signature move?" he says. Megan replies. "What's our—" She breaks off in a gasp, delighted as he dips her until her hair nearly brushes the floor. Her head spins as he pulls her back up. "Iron tablets, Megan. Take your iron tablets." She gets lightheaded. "You dizzy?" he asks as he twirls her around. And she is, but she likes it. She likes it so much that she asks him to do it again, and he happily obliges. It's so gorgeous, and us women would love to have been, Megan in those moments in a real way, not in a fake boyfriend way. Like, we want our men to keep our hand on us all night for comfort. We want them to be attentive and make sure we're eating and drinking, and then twirling us in front of everyone, in front of every nosy motherfucker in there. It's so sexy. We love Christian. And then he abruptly breaks away. I thought he got a work call, but it turns out he was just feeling like such intense love or like emotions toward her that he needed a second to himself. When Megan is alone, she runs into her ex, Isaac, and he tries to talk to her. And she says no and starts to walk away, and he grabs her wrist. I was so scared that this was going to be a DV, domestic violence relationship, because I don't want to hear about how weak and sad Megan is. And she makes me proud by yanking her hand away and saying, I owe you nothing, not giving him another second of her time. And to be honest, I would have loved that scene being the last scene with Isaac in it. I did not need him to make any more appearances in the book after she said no. And he still tried to like force her to talk. Like, so gross. Like, obviously we don't like him. She finds Christian after that and she's flustered, of course, and she tells him she wants to leave and he obliges immediately, which is something us women also want in our men: obedience. In the car, they have a heart to heart where Megan shares that the reason she left Isaac like at the altar was because the day before the wedding, she found out that he declined a job offer that she wanted because it didn't align with the plans he had for them. He's controlling and a dick, but no one else knows because she hasn't told anyone about it. And like that was 5 years ago. So she's only told Christian. They end up having a hot and steamy moment in the car, and that's where they decide that they're going to be friends with benefits. Like, what the, why friends with benefits? Like, what? Like, you're opening up to him, you just had an amazing night with him, he's hot, you want to have sex with him, and you're like, oh yeah, friends with benefits. Like, why are you doing this to yourself? It's so annoying, but in a cute way. Honestly, it wasn't annoying, like, because these books can go either way, and I don't think that this was annoying at all, but it was just one of those moments where you're like, ah. So Megan meets Christian's family like when they're in town, and they obviously love her. She joins in on the family fun and connects with Christian's brother's girlfriend and his dad too. There's a snowstorm coming, and Christian and Megan need to go to the cabin that Andrew, Christian's brother, rented out for a few days because he was gonna propose to his girlfriend. So Christian and Megan need to go to like collect things and square everything out. But they get stranded for a few days. They take a dip in the hot tub while they're there, obviously, as one does. And when there's a hot tub and a free cabin, and they're in the hot tub, and Megan tries to talk and get more to drink until finally Christian goes, Megan, come here. And this is, I'm going to read the entire thing. I think it was like 3 pages. I'm reading it because it's amazing. And you need to read this book. I love it. So he goes, Megan, come here. And this chapter is in his point of view. And so we're hearing him thinking these things about her and being in his mind. And it just adds to the sexiness because, like I talked about in another episode, like us women, we would love to just like get a glimpse of like what our guys or our significant others are like thinking. Like that's for me at least. I don't know if that's like, I'm sure it's not just a woman thing, but the point is like, I personally want to know every thought that you're having. And so it just adds to it. And so he goes, Megan, come here. It's enough to make her stop breathing. At least I think she stopped. She definitely stops moving, watching me with glittering eyes before slowly, carefully, she sets her glass on the side of the tub and crosses a small distance between us. I assumed she was going to sit beside me, but instead she places herself astride my lap. She drapes her thighs on either side of my legs, settling down like she's done this 100 times before, like my body is a familiar thing. She straightens her spine and she's close enough to kiss, but not yet, not quite. And now I'm the one who can't draw a breath. We stay like that, unmoving, for a long second before she trails one finger down my nose and traces my lips. I let her, giving her as much time and space as she wants. Whatever she wants, I'll give her. I realize that now, how I'll never be able to say no to this person. I'm completely at her mercy. This doesn't feel like pretend, she says, quietly. Do you want it to be? She shakes her head. I see the movement of her throat as she swallows. Her eyes flick over my face, gauging my reaction. But there's nothing unsure about her movements, as her hand dips below the water and finds mine, bringing it to her hip. The strap of her bikini presses against my palm, and it takes supreme effort not to simply untie it right then and there. I know she can feel my erection. I can certainly feel it pushing up between her thighs. But when she doesn't hesitate or move away, I pull her tighter to me, tight enough that she groans, tight enough that I do too. This okay? I ask, and she nods, pushing her hips into mine. My other hand finds her waist, but she catches it and brings it to her breast. I love you. I don't know why I thought she'd be shy about this. There was a moment in the car after her mother's party. There was a moment in the car after her mother's party that I felt like she was going to rip my clothes off. But this, the confidence in showing exactly what she wants and exactly how she wants it, is making me lose control. I cup her breast as directed, rolling her nipple under my thumb until her eyes flutter closed. I don't even dare to blink, scrutinizing her expression for the slightest change until the moment I take a gamble and pinch her. Her entire body jolts as her heated gaze snaps to mine, and before I can do anything else, she's kissing me. It's a hungry kiss, all tongues and teeth and gasping breaths, and I don't think I've ever been so turned on in my life. I love kissing Megan. She does it with an enthusiasm I'm not used to it. Like she's not scared to show me how much she wants me. It's what I've always liked about her. She plays no games, no tricks. Her hips start to move instinctively until she's arching into me. My hand at her waist slips under the strap and starts to travel. I go slowly, pressing firmly so she's aware of my intentions and can give me plenty of opportunity to stop. Love consent. She only drops her mouth to my shoulder, kissing my skin, and I stroke her hair as she relaxes around me, feeling like I could stay like that forever. But then she sucks in a breath, nipping my ear as she rouses, and I watch through heavy-lidded eyes as she smiles a sexy little smile that tells me she knows exactly the power she has over me. Tell me what you like, she murmurs as she starts to explore, and I open my mouth to do just that when something inhuman shrieks in the darkness. A fucking fox interrupted the moment, and I'm so angry. Like, that was so hot. I feel like you need to send this podcast to men so that they know what to do. Like, everything that he was doing, yes, like with the hands, with the kissing, with the taking the time, multitasking, whatever she wants, hot tub, cabin, snow. Yes, like, be for real. Like, men take notes. This is what we want. Ugh, I just love him. The sex scenes, like I think there's maybe one or two other sex scenes were not as PG as I expected. We got a few good pages detailing, touching, what they were thinking, what their body parts were doing, descriptions of each other's body parts. And I feel like I feel like this is just the right amount of sex talk for like a cutesy Christmassy book. Any more, I would have thought it was too raunchy and it would have felt out of place. And any less, I would have been disappointed. So I love the sex scenes in this. I understand why it needed to wait till toward the end of the book because obviously you need to build up and like they were faking it and like there's a storyline here. I understand that. I also want to talk about Megan and her mom's relationship and Christian and his dad's relationship. Like, I feel like that's super common and super relatable and something that like the author intentionally did where it's hard for the parents to really understand their kids because their kids are being non-conventional. And it's just like super relatable where it's a generational thing and also our parents want us to be fulfilled and happy, and so if we're doing things that they think are not going to keep us fulfilled and not going to keep us happy and thriving, I think that it creates a little bit of tension and worry, and so it gets in the middle of your relationship. And so I think that's what happened with Megan and her mom, and then Christian and his dad, and obviously they get closer throughout the book, so super cute. Another thing that I love about the book is their humor. The first time that I laughed literally out loud is while Christian is getting, Megan some water. Megan's lightheaded. She's in the bathroom and she calls her friend to just let her know, like, hey, almost fainted. Just wanted to let you know because she was studying or something. And then the friend goes, actually, I'm not studying. I'm with this guy. And like, we're about to like have sex or whatever. And so Megan's like, don't worry about it. Like, stay with the guy. Orgasms are super important. And that is when Christian walks in, when she's on the phone talking about how orgasms are super important. And so what made me laugh out loud is that when she hangs up with her best friend, she goes, oh, sorry, it was my grandma. It was so funny. And it was like constantly throughout the book, there's a lot of like deadpan and a lot of like things that you normally wouldn't say and like cringy kind of things where it's like, banter, I think, is a good way to describe it, and I loved the humor of it, and the humor alone made me want to read more Irish books. So if you have any Irish book recommendations, please send them my way because I just love that humor of like when you say that you're super cool and they'll be like, oh yeah, you're super humble too. And there were so many of them. Like, I wanted to highlight them all, and if I had any other colors to highlight on my Kindle, I definitely would have chosen like a color specific to that, but it's hard, okay? You only got four colors. Like, I have a lot to highlight. So the only thing that I would say that was like part of lo malo is when Aiden and Megan are going into town to help their mom out. And they stop to help people who are stuck in the snow. And it turns out to be like Isaac's friends, like Megan's ex-friends. And I really don't think it was necessary to like have that scene. It just seemed like too many scenes going on like in the flow of the book essentially. Like, I understand that she needed to yell at him and tell him how much of an asshole he is for declining her job that she wanted, and also no one else had known that until that moment. So that was also important. But I feel like that could have happened at a different point, like maybe even later on in the book, because having him show up 3 separate times seemed annoying. Like one or two is enough. But the three, it was like, I don't need this. I don't need you anymore. I don't want to talk to Isaac. He's interrupting our very limited 364 pages with Christian. So get Isaac out. Thank you. The books I want to read next is definitely the book about Andrew and Molly. Andrew is Christian's brother, and Molly is his girlfriend, now fiance, because they propose to each other in the book, and so it's their love story. And I definitely want to read that, and that is called Holiday Romance. I want to learn more about Molly's twin sister. She seems super progressive. She wanted to have a kid, and so she has a kid by herself. She's a solo parent. I think she did like IVF, and I love that, and I want to hear more about that. So if you liked this episode today, be sure to subscribe to the podcast and leave a review. New episodes are uploaded on Friday mornings. Thank you guys for listening to today's episode. If you want to be a guest, that'd be great. We can do it through Zoom, just with audio. We don't need to do it in person. We don't need to do video. Like, whatever you're down with, like, I'm cool with. So if you're into it, let me know. And thank you for listening. You can also follow me on social media and YouTube at Chicklit Podcast. Remember, if you have any book recommendations, Irish or contemporary romance similar to those sex scenes that I share, send them my way. Thank you for listening.